Morning, everybody. I'm going to call the meeting to order, and I need a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor? Okay, the first item on the agenda is the old Fairview property update. We went in front of the county a couple weeks ago, last month, on deeming this surplus and then getting the county's right of first refusal out of the way. So I just want to get an update on that because we tabled it at the Board of County Commissioners.
Okay, yes, ma'am. The task at the moment is to get an appraisal. That appraisal has been authorized. We are waiting to receive that appraisal. We do expect to receive it next week.
Who are we using for the appraisal?
TB Harris.
Okay, so then we'll wait until after we get the appraisal to go back to the county and put it on their agenda again. But when we go for the agenda, it's not to approve anything with the town of Fairview. It's simply to deem it surplus. And I think that at the board level, we already approved that. We deemed it surplus. So we'll just wait for the appraisal and get back on their agenda. Great, thank you. Okay, Antioch sewer easement request.
Sure, you have several attachments. I can kind of go over this briefly. There's an existing sewer easement on the property. It's in the easternmost portion of the site. Grace One Church is an adjacent property owner. They are looking to develop. They also want to utilize that easement but shift it slightly. So it would result in an increase of 0.01956 acres. Half of that's permanent, half of that's temporary construction easement. The cost of that using the county's formula is $350.25. Staff has no problem with this, and we recommend its approval and certainly can answer any questions.
Yeah, motion to approve it.
I make a motion that we approve moving forward with this easement request.
I'll second that.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay, next, the Benton Heights Elementary School renovation bid.
We received bids on May 22nd. We were over the allotted budget. 3 contractors submitted bids. Godfrey Construction was the lowest responsive bidder. They had a bid, the base bid of $4.5 million, and there was $62,600 for alternate number 5, which is the green room. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but we needed to shore up the structure at the green room, basically the floor, and the foundations below that. So the total was $4,582,400. As I mentioned, it was over budget. We did work with the contractor, with the architect, and had some value engineering credits of $472,573 that we're proposing. We have an attached list of what those are. If that is approved, that would have a contract value of $4,109,827. That is under budget. We would have a remaining budget of $8. The value engineering items are listed as an attachment. We also had the bid tab, which showed the bids from Encompass, Godfrey, and Pro Construction.
Now, this is not refurbishing the old one. This is building a new one.
This is a new auditorium. Yes, in fact, if you want, I can.
Yeah, but nothing was said about that. You're saying it like we're fixing up the green room.
So the main scope of this work is the auditorium. With the auditorium, and I'll step up there and show you real quick, and I'll show you what's not included.
So where's the old auditorium?
Old auditorium is right here. That was alternate number 3, and that was to renovate and repurpose that auditorium. So as I understand, as the design effort went through in consultation with the architect, it was determined that it was a better value to build a new auditorium as opposed to renovating the old auditorium. Hopefully you all were aware of that, and if you,
Yes,
were-
the previous board was aware of that.
okay.
The new members of
It
the
was
board
a-
were not aware.
So due to the cost and being over budget, we can't recommend doing this at this time. This is the renovation of the and repurposing of the old auditorium. And what is included in the project is renovating these 3 bathrooms, ADA compliance. Is the green room right here. And these bathrooms over here are part of the deduct, part of the credits to get it under budget. So that work would have to happen at a later time.
Right.
And we may even be able to do some of that with maintenance work, depending on.
The largest portion of the deduct is the bathrooms. So are they not going to be ADA compliant?
We're not going to propose to do that work. Some of that work is grab bars and things like that, but if that's the case, we can try to do that with maintenance. But where there's major construction in these other bathrooms, no, we can't propose to do it at this time, given the funds and trying to stay within that budget.
Now, the alternate bid 3
Yes.
for 400 and something thousand, that's to shore up the existing auditorium.
Person, but we have David Pope and we have Danny McManus, and you guys can jump in and provide any detail.
The alternate for renovating the auditorium is to take out the floor because it will not hold the weight of the new walls. So the floor has to come out. There's asbestos abatement that has to take place in order to do that, in order to put those walls in. So in essence, yes, it is shoring up the floor. However, it is replacing the whole entire floor, taking it down, and then bringing it back up.
And the 400,000 does not include the asbestos abatement. That was.
Well, that would be,
separate issue.
yeah. But it's my understanding, we started off to fix the floor at Benton Heights. That's right, correct? They had deflection to it.
There were several issues at Benton Heights, and they were grouped together into this one project. There was the ADA renovations, there were site improvements, there was renovations, I forget how it's worded on the capital improvement plan for the auditorium. And if you remember, it was $1.8 million roughly 1 year. That wasn't enough to do it. So the next year we were able to get more money. I think that was 1.6. Please don't hold me to those numbers. I'm going off memory.
The county gave us the fund balance for Benton Heights last year, correct?
Right.
Right.
Yes. And so that was to do the main goal was to take care of the auditorium, renovate the auditorium. We did a survey, like Dave said, with the architect, and it was more beneficial to build a new one than to renovate that auditorium and to expand it into the needs of the school.
Well, it's my understanding from the folks I've talked to that the alternate plan 3 will fix the structural problems, not counting the abatement in the auditorium. Is the auditorium big enough as it is now?
No, that's the reason why we're going with the new auditorium. There was going to have to be expansion done to the existing auditorium, and looking at the site plan and doing the survey with the architect, not that it wasn't feasible, it just wasn't cost effective. I'm trying to talk really loud. I'm sorry.
This is also the project where Mr. Sides had made the motion a year and a half ago to go ahead and get an engineering study done during this design process. This is the same project. And so when that information came back, that's when we determined to do a new auditorium. And then because it was an arts program, the goal was to refurbish the old auditorium so that I would have to go back and look at my notes from a year ago, but they were going to use the existing auditorium for the arts that are being done there, different rooms for different programs. But after that engineering study is when they determined that the best route was to do a new auditorium.
I would like to do an on-site visit. Would it be possible to request to table this and get out there? But, because from what I understand, the option 3 makes the auditorium sound. And I'm not talking about,
I think what Ms. Merrill is saying, though, is that the prior board made this determination already. And so all we're here to do is decide on the bid process, because we didn't bid out that option. We are only looking at this option.
it was
because
given as an alternate.
If I could add, the bids are good for 60 days. And so we're at that period. So we need to, either move, or we'll be talking with the contractor to make sure that they can hold the bids for as long as you all need to, but they will do that.
I guess the thing that concerns me, if we, with the way it is and with the bid, is we're putting off bathroom renovations again. And
And I don't want to stop those. I mean, I look at them as an entirely separate thing over the auditorium.
I mean,
I do
it definitely
but it
was a
was-
red
they
flag
were
to me too.
They were part of the same.
And because we thought the bathrooms were all being done in this project, we did not put it in our capital improvement plan. So it's not on year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because we assumed all the bathrooms would be done in this project.
So now we're saying we have to fit into year 2, $190,000 for bathroom renovations at Benton Heights.
The other thing that stood out to me was the project budget. If we could please verify that number, because our 2016-17 capital project timeline on our website says that the project budget was $4,473,248, which is different than the sheet we have here. So if staff could please look and verify what the budget total is or isn't.
And what's going to happen to the old auditorium?
It was refurbished into what?
Yeah, I mean, what was proposed is repurposing it into 3 classrooms, and let me confirm that those are 3 classrooms.
For the arts. I can't remember if it was dance or what it was, but it was for the arts there.
And that's only going to cost $62,600.
It was dance, music, and drama.
Only going to cost $62,600. Trying to understand what alternate number 5 green room is. Is that the upfit of the old auditorium?
No, alternate number 5 green room is of the green room, and it's included in our recommendation of being done. It is the one in the middle.
So the green room is not the old auditorium.
The
It's
green
a
room is
different.
not the old auditorium. The green room is right here. 5.
Okay.
This was alternate 3 for the existing auditorium, turn it into 1, 2, 3 classrooms, basically utilizing the stage.
And that's in the base bid. Alternate 3 is in the base bid.
Alternate 3 is not in the base bid. In the base bid, you have this auditorium, new
Okay.
auditorium.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that's everything in the base bid. And we're recommending here and here for the bathrooms and the green room.
So nothing will be done to the old auditorium.
That is
Right
correct.
Yeah, and that alternate was $403,000.
How much?
$403,000.
Which is what I think we were all thinking was going to be fixed, the old auditorium.
The original scope of the project.
Yeah.
Where is that on our paperwork? Because I'm not seeing the 403,000.
So if you look at the bid tab, you should have this sheet. And if you look under Godfrey Construction, because they are the low base bid, and just head over to the right, you'll see the alternates 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, so
5.
this brings up an excellent point. So let's look, what does alternate 1 include?
It's a proprietary alternate for proprietary brands.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Proprietary alternate for proprietary brands such as certain keyways and certain preferred vendors that we want. in the
That would
project.
be the Union County Public Schools standard hardware and items like that that we try to repeat for ease of maintenance and replacement and knowledge of systems.
Okay. What is alternate two?
Sorry, I can't remember that from memory.
It was $55,800.
That dealt with the restrooms also. I believe.
I'm sorry, restrooms?
Yes. I'd like to say one thing about the restrooms is that although they are not absolutely ADA compliant, they have some features of ADA. It's not like a restroom from the 50s. We do have, I think, adequate turnaround space. They're replacing some grab bars, extensive renovations on the 5th grade hall in order to increase the space and also provide a new staff toilet here.
Okay. So alternate three is the old gym, renovation of the old gym.
Old auditorium.
Auditorium. Alternate four,
Alternate four is $24,000.
I'm sorry, I didn't commit those to memory.
alternate five is the green room.
Yes.
Okay. And this bid that we're looking at today is everything except alternate three.
What's proposed is base bid, alternate 5, and then deducts.
It's just base bid and alternate 5, no other alternate.
Okay, so what we're looking at today is not alternate 1, not alternate 2, not alternate 3, or 4.
Correct. And that's what's proposed. So what we will do in the future on our bid tabs is we will have a description at the bottom of each of these alternates. And we'll just make that standard.
And since it's not on the bid sheet, you said that you received this bid on what date?
It's May 22nd.
So I think we've talked about this before. When it comes to roofing, we need to know the bid date, which is May 22nd. And then 60 days out, we need to know when this expires. We need, it would be really helpful so that we're not asking the same question every project. When does this expire? Because 60 days out, when we're talking to the county commissioners, we need to know the hard date on when does this bid that you've proposed
Ms. Merrill,
expire?
by what they're saying, it's already lapsed.
It already lapsed, we're there.
I've discussed this with the contractor and he was willing.
But what I'm saying is, on these bid sheets, we need it written out. What is the expiration date?
That's why I think we need to table it. I'm available to go anytime, and I'm sure most of the other members are. I want to know what I'm voting on. I want to know that we're doing what we said we would do. To me, this just doesn't bode well.
Well, it doesn't match what the board did approve, a year or year and a half ago. It's not the scope of the project. And I realized that the scope of the project was above the budget. But there's also a little bit of a question on what the budget is too. So basically, we're discussing a bid that is expired.
Yeah, so
He was just saying that.
Because that would be July 22nd.
Yes.
David was just
I
answering.
did discuss this with Boss Henson, the Vice President of Godfrey Construction, and asked him, since we're not going to meet in July, if he would hold this open until August, and he did agree to that.
Okay.
So when we require that they hold the bids for 60 days, that is the minimum that they have to hold it. We can then talk with the contractor and say, hey, will you hold it extra time? So that is the case here.
Could we ask for a 30-day extension on the bid so that we could at least get out there on the ground and see what?
I guess I want to understand what you're talking about getting out there on the ground. I too want to understand what the alternates are. But if you're talking about going backwards and saying that you want the old auditorium renovated instead of a new auditorium, I think that decision was already made. And I guess that's what I'm a little bit, I'm trying to understand, I guess. are we talking about, I mean, because you're talking about they never gave the bid to redo the old auditorium into the existing auditorium. So we would be, in essence, scratching everything and starting over based upon something that the old board gave a directive for. Am I saying this right? So I guess I don't have any problem with tabling it, except are we real, are what you're saying is, are we going to go backwards? And I think that if that's what you're asking, we need to make that decision right now, because that's not what we're being presented with
I'm not
today.
wanting to go backwards, but I'm just wanting to make sure that what we are going to vote on, if we vote today, is what the general public thinks that they were promised.
I'm still confused. I'm gonna say it. The prior board determined to tell the architects to work on a new auditorium, a new build. And then one of the alternatives was taking the old auditorium and converting it into 3 classrooms, which is not on the table right now because we
So-
do not have the money.
They had done away with, well, they had originally been told, the old board, that it was too expensive to shore up the existing
Right,
floor.
so that's why they had an engineer look at it, they made a determination to proceed with a new auditorium. So that's where we are on bids, and I get that we may need some more information on what these alternatives are and stuff, but if you're asking us to go back and talk about having to look at renovating the existing auditorium, then I think that requires a vote of all of us now, because that is not the way they've been proceeding for the last year. And I guess my understanding, and Melissa can correct me, that we were supposed to be an auditorium at Benton Heights because it's an art school and handling the ADA compliance with respect to the bathrooms. Now, because from what Melissa's saying, because of an engineering study, they made the determination not to go with the existing auditorium and build a new auditorium. So, did I say all that correctly? So that's kind of where we are
Right,
today.
but my question is, they're going to shore up the auditorium. The problem that started this whole evolution was that it was not structurally sound. Is that right, Danny?
No, the structurally sound part of that was referring to the green room. Green room is the one that's not structurally sound. The renovation / the replacement of the auditorium was due to the age of the auditorium and the capacity of the auditorium.
Well, again, what is the capacity of the auditorium? Because that was a high school at one time.
My memory is that the prior board was told there could be some structural concerns with the old auditorium.
Right.
This is the first I've really heard about a green room. So I remember Mr. Sides making a motion to go ahead and allocate money to get an engineering study done on the old auditorium. And it came back that it was structurally sound, but did not meet the dimensions and the current code requirements for an auditorium, but that we could renovate it and put classrooms there. But as far as renovating it to make it an auditorium was not possible, but it was structurally, the engineering came back that it was structurally sound.
Is that correct? Anyone? No?
Yes, the engineer did look at it / architects looked at it and looked at the auditorium, but it just.
And David can correct me if I'm wrong, but it wasn't feasible to add on to the auditorium, given its location, to get to the capacity that we needed for the school. We're limited by number of exits in the way that we can exit the building at the existing auditorium. And so with having to move everything around, it was not financially responsible. So the best option was to build a new auditorium, renovate the existing auditorium into 3 classrooms, the drama, the dance, and the music.
But when we had to consider renovating the existing auditorium, we did run into some structural issues, which meant that we were going to have to completely demolish the existing floor in the auditorium and the structure, abate the asbestos below it, come in and put grade up to the appropriate floor level and put in a new slab. So that's one of the things that we did not foresee at the beginning of the design. So that's one of the items that did drive up the cost of that alternate so high, was the unforeseen structure there to make it feasible for renovation.
So with the 3 classrooms, we have to tear the floor out basically and rebuild it back up.
Correct. We
Okay.
were
That's
hopeful.
not part of what.
Yes, that's for future.
We were hopeful we could somehow use the existing floor and support it from below. But after we did bring in our structural engineer, they said that that just would not be feasible. In fact, they thought even to load test it might cause the floor to fail. So we abandoned that.
So to try to bring this back, I think, just me thinking through this, we have 3 options for the committee. Number one, we're looking for an action to support this to go to the full board next week, because the full board would have to vote on it. That would then give you today, tomorrow, Monday, if anyone wanted to go out to Benton Heights to review the project, review the scope, we can then get further documentation on the budget, Ms. Merrill, and make sure that we're all in accordance. That's kind of option one. Option two is we table this, we get a 30-day extension to the bids and come back to you in August. And then option three is the committee says we're not doing this and go back, as Ms. Heintel said, and start all over with the entire process.
I personally think that we could do a really quick meeting before the board meeting. Is it next week? Next Tuesday? Yeah. Just to get answers to some of these questions we have and vote on it then, and then take it to the full board at that time. Does that give you enough time? Yeah. Perfect.
That works for us.
I guess my only concern is the $190,000 for bathroom renovations. I'm going to tell you. Just like to go out and take a look at those bathrooms. I guess asking Danny and David Pope and David Burnett, where would you want to put these bathroom renovations in the 5-year plan? Is it something that you think should be done in year 2? Because we're already kind of past year 1. Are we talking year 3, 4, 5? I mean, I have no idea how old these bathrooms are. So I guess that's the other question is, what year of the next 4 years do you see it going into, given its age compared to the other schools and things of that sort? I just kind of, in my mind, I kind of want to plug it into a year so that we have some idea of where we're talking about going with this. That's all. And I know that 2 through 5 wasn't anything that was hugely discussed, but I just kind of like to understand where it would go with the other ADA renovations, because we still have a few schools we're going to be doing bathrooms on, right? And that would help you bundle it together. Perfect. Okay.
And I guess my only question too is, well, when are we going to do alternative 3, like in the capital plan also? I hate to have a building just sitting there with.
Oh, the old auditorium into the 3
auditorium.
classrooms. I agree with that as well.
That would have to be taken into consideration for a future capital budget request. So we'll be glad to meet prior to closed session on Tuesday,
Okay.
and we'll just work to hire it to post that facilities committee meeting.
And can I ask one more thing? Do we have any money left anywhere to get $63,000 to do the alternate 3 to get it done with this project? Are there any underages in any other project that we can ask the county to move the money? Anything to what? The chill, that's all gone. Ha ha ha. But
Three's 403.
I'm sorry, whatever the alternate was for the green room. Sorry.
403.
I mean, oh, you're right. It's 403. Sorry. We don't have $400,000 anywhere. Sure. No problem. Okay. Sorry. Okay. So. Tabling that. Now on to the Monroe High School bond flexibility.
And this might be as complicated, hopefully not, but this is you all met at one of the last facilities committee meetings. We had a presentation of the Monroe High School design. We had the principal, Mike Harvey, was here, and he had kind of expressed some desires and some interest in going with the 6 classroom addition. for a couple reasons. It was for circulation. It was to help with the elevator. It was also to create a lobby space that he thought would be helpful in his management of the school. So we're coming back to you now that we have some demographic data that will hopefully put things in a better light as far as, how much do we need the 6 classrooms versus the 8 classrooms. So looking at some of the demographic data that we just recently have received and are receiving, Monroe High School capacity is listed at the one that you all looked at last night was 1,496 students. And the enrollment projection and forecast, for the next several years shows us not approaching that number. In fact, we're about to the good 200 students, and keep in mind that those forecasts or that capacity included the 8 classrooms. So that's a good point to know. And the highest number that I'm seeing for the forecast at Monroe High School is 1,297 students, and that's in the year 24-25. It's well under the capacity of almost 1,500. So staff is I guess, recommending that the board and committee consider the 6 classroom option.
The capacity prior to, if you back out of Mr. Cropper's information of the 1,496, if you back out the 8 new classrooms, you're around 1,260 in capacity before the construction. So the 1,297 enrollment forecast to 23-24, we should be fine.
Okay, so the new information we received from Cropper McKibben is that the Monroe High School will be at 1,496 with the 8 classrooms.
That's correct.
And so the question before us today, and the goal with the bond and what went out to the public is that we were going to take, that those 8 classrooms would take it to 1,500. So even with the 8 classrooms, we're just a little bit shy of 1,500. So what would the capacity be if we dropped it to 6 classrooms? Because obviously the 1,496 would go even lower.
Yeah, they're probably using
1,440. 28 per classroom times 2. So that's 56 backed out of 1,496. So we would be at right about 1,440. Is that what you get? And that should give us plenty of room with only 6 classrooms instead of 8 for growth, for anything at Monroe. We don't want Monroe to be near capacity, that's for sure.
But I think the recommendation is a bid for 6 classrooms with an alternate for 2.
That's correct.
Okay.
So what we will need to be doing is to be able to direct the architect, in either the 6 classroom with the 2 additional as an alternate, as they prepare the bid documents, or to do the 8. And there's some work involved in doing a 2 classroom alternate. So we just need to be able to clearly show which way.
If we ultimately go with 6 classrooms instead of the 8 as proposed in the bond, that we should go to the county commissioners and let them know where we are with that. So I guess the question would be, do we wait till the bids come in and we take a look at it then and then go back to them, or what? But I think we would need to go back just because it's a little different than what was on the bond sheet.
And keep in mind that there are some differences between the straight 8 classroom design versus the 6. with the two classroom alternate, because it does impact the elevator. It does impact that lobby space. So there is some differences, that would be realized in the design.
I think what we're asking for today is some guidance from the committee on, are you okay with us doing the design and the bid for 6 with an alternate of 2 versus the straight 8? Because we can't give guidance to the,
Well, straight 8 is completely different. It's a square building in front of the
Right.
school. So I guess if we're going to go with the 6 and 2, which is what the principal of the school has recommended, as well as the project advisory team and as well as staff, I assume, is recommending that, I think we should probably go to the county commissioners now instead of later, just so that they're kind of on board with where we're going with this project if we decide to do the 6 with the alternate 2, because it seems unlikely at this point that we would be able to get 8 classrooms where they want it done with the elevator and everything else. That would be my,
I would agree as
Personal record.
first. And in the future, to me, it would be advantageous to talk with staff and administration. Who decided 8? And then the staff comes up and says, we'd rather have 6.
that, well, no, the 8 was decided at the time of the bond, given what the projections were for Monroe High School at the time. As you know from last night, the projections have changed from the ones that we were using from December of 15. So the 8 was determined based upon where to get it to 1,500 based upon what the projections looked like then. Those projections have changed a little bit. And during the project advisory team meetings, of which I was at one of the 2, they talked about wanting to fix the space where the old elevator is and the congestion that happens in that
Yeah, I was at
hallway.
that one.
Yeah, so that was why it came about to do the 6 instead of
But in
8.
the future, my point is, we need that work there every day of what they really need, so that when we put a package together and start trying to fund it, it doesn't change. It doesn't morph from 8 to 6 and renovation.
I agree, Mr. Rate, because we were told they needed 8 classrooms. We were never told that there was a problem with the elevator. So now all of a sudden, what we went to the public with the bond was that we needed 8 classrooms. Now we're going to the voters and saying, well, we only need 6 classrooms because there's a problem with the traffic flow in the elevator. We really need the money for an elevator instead of the 2 classrooms. So the scope of the project has definitely changed since the bond was put together.
I agree with you. One of the things that the 8 classrooms came about is they're currently using 9 MCRs at Monroe High School. And Ms. Merrill brings up a good point in that I think they still want to leave some of those MCRs on site after this construction of 6. And mostly that's being used for floating teachers because it's high school. And every high school you go to talks about the fact that they don't like the floating teacher idea. So that's kind of where that all is. But they do have 13 MCRs there, and 9 of which are being used as classrooms, I believe.
Yes, ma'am.
I agree with everything said. I just want it to be that that a facilities meeting is not a education and then vote meeting. I just need to get my mind wrapped around what's going on before the day of the vote.
Yeah, and let me ask, was there a school administration change since the bond was put together?
No.
Okay. But we did meet with the school staff before putting the proposal together, or no?
Yes, previous administration met with school staff and put the bond package together based on the 1,500 in the projections. And then since then, obviously, during the PAT, principal and school staff has been involved, engaged twice, I believe. And then Dr. Harvey came and commented to the facilities committee in, was it June, Lauren? The last facility? How about this, the last facilities meeting?
So with the McKibben study, that included 8 classrooms,
Yes, yes.
and what's the utilization percentage too for the subsequent years?
I believe it's 80%, but we can look that up.
It gets as high in the year that we've been talking about it being at its highest level is at the utilization would be at about 86.7% would be the highest. So
Mr.
that-
Hibbs, that's another good point. We got one study we're paying for that's based on 8. The public's thinking 8, but then administration, site administration wants 6. So I think confuses me.
I mean, because we never heard about the elevator until after the bond meetings started happening. I had never heard that there was that there was a need to include renovations of an elevator in the bond project.
And as I think I understand it, the elevator that's there currently, is it external? Is it?
Yes.
Yeah, it is external to the school. So it's not an ideal situation. You know, it's not in the main circulation patterns within the school building. So that is a nice thing to be able to change and get that inside and be more functional.
It's just, it wasn't included on the bond project that went out to the voters for 8 classrooms.
The elevator was somewhat collateral to the rest of the project. Dr. Harvey really wanted to have this commissary to solve the problem. And in order to accommodate that, we would have to take up.
Well, I think if we're going to talk about flexibility, we've got to go back to the commissioners first and ask them direction.
Well, I guess that's what we're trying to decide right here. If we're willing to go with the 6 classrooms with the 2 additional as an alternative, then yes, if that's what we approve today and take to the board for approval next week, we would need to then go to the county commissioners and ask them.
So do we need a motion on that?
Yes.
I'll make that motion.
I second it.
All those in favor? Next thing on the agenda is the bond project update. I don't know if there's anything else to add. I just thought we would put that on there every month to kind of get an update on where we are.
For the most part, the projects that we have on the agenda today, Monroe High School is one of the bond projects, so we'll be seeing where we're going with that.
Are there any updates on Sun Valley or Porter Ridge or Piedmont?
Yeah, and I'll just have to apologize right now. I actually missed this item, so I'm
Okay.
not prepared to talk about it. So, Danny, if you can bail me out, I'd appreciate it.
There are no further updates to Porter Ridges, Piedmont, or Western Union. We still have the one design charrette before school let out. We're still at the same place we were in June.
Okay.
Sun Valley, the only, we're working towards combining that corner lot that we talked about in June. There are no further updates at this time. And transportation, we are proceeding with the survey for the sewer easement, and we're about 95% in design on those.
The one update I have on Sun Valley is we had talked with the committee about the on-site dump, I believe, that's right there as part of that project. Mr. Strickland and I are working on a memo that can be sent to the county commissioners from both Ms. Heintel and Ms. Merrill as board chair and chair of the facilities committee. What I've been told is that we need to have that letter sent to the county commissioners as a request to take action on that dump, and that way that can be placed on their agenda. So we're working on that as we'll be processing that hopefully this week.
Do they have a lease on that? The county, do they lease that from us? The dump site?
I don't know if they have a lease, but in meetings with county staff and explaining to them what we wanted to do, they were agreeable to it.
Okay,
And that's the result of the letter they wanted to come from you all, and I've started work on that.
perfect. Okay, any other questions? Next is the roofing consultant RFQ.
We had 3 roofing consultants respond to the RFQ for professional design services. Those REI Engineers, Nelson Hall and Associates, and Terracon Consultants. The staff is requesting to move forward with negotiations with Terracon for the comprehensive roof audit. Terracon has worked with Union County Public Schools and asbestos testing and asbestos management and construction materials testing, and has done a really good job for Union County Public Schools. So staff is recommending that we pursue Terracon for this service as well.
So we need a motion on that. I'll make the motion, we move forward to the full board with a recommendation of Terracon.
I'll second it.
All those in favor? Okay, surplus equipment.
We have a list attached for equipment that we're recommending that we approve to go to .com. It's not a very significant list. It's for the most part, we've got 3 Atlas stands, some band uniforms, parenting babies, an elliptical bike, an aquarium, some globes, and some pictures, a glider rocker, some magazine racks.
I had a curiosity question. I don't know if anyone here can answer this or not, but band uniforms, are those purchased by the parents or Union County Public Schools?
I know for Porterage High School, when that project was budgeted and constructed, we did purchase and provide band uniforms at that time. So the initial band uniforms were provided by the district. Now, the school and the parents certainly may have replaced them, may have added to them. I don't know that, but I can tell you at the very beginning of that school, they were provided by the district.
So with that being said, are you saying that these band uniforms were from 2005?
I can't say that.
Okay. But to the best of your knowledge, they are our property to sell or get rid of.
And not the band boosters, right?
That's our understanding. So
But it would be yours anyway, since the band booster would be purchasing them and for the school, so they would become property of the Board of Education.
Okay,
and it also included the child nutrition, school nutrition item, the dishwasher and the ice machine at the top. I missed that.
okay. Thank you. Next thing on the agenda is the change order update.
There's an attachment that shows quite a few updates, quite a few change orders. This one that's specifically mentioned is down at the bottom. So it's the very last one of that sheet. So it's a $5,000 credit for unused contingencies.
So this was a curious one to come up. This was a project that we went to the county asking for additional funds because apparently there were issues in the parking lot. Is my memory correct? And now, so we went and asked for additional funds because of a change order. I can't remember if it was $12,000 or $14,000.
It wasn't this project, Ms. Mayor.
It was not, Wolf?
Weather Guard did the second part. the company that had the problems in the parking lot was not WeatherGuard.
This was the TPA.
Yeah, but that was replaced in two parts, you know.
So-
They had 3/4 of it was
Mhm.
replaced, and then we approved the remaining
The
quarter
gym.
to be replaced.
This WeatherGuard did over the gym and there was no issue.
Okay, so,
If you
okay,
look at
so
item 5.
this was not from the change order. We went and asked for more money.
Correct. This is-
Okay.
Right.
I
yeah.
just wanted that clarification
school,
on the
different-
record.
Different part of the roof.
Okay,
Yes.
because I know, people watching or whatever will remember that we went and asked for additional funds for the roofing project at Wolf. So we're saying that this is not from that
That
phase,
roofing project.
that
Right,
phase.
correct.
Okay.
This project was approved since the new board was
Since we've been on.
on. And the one you're
Well,
talking.
so
but-
were the other, I think
No,
we
the
went
first
for the
part,
change
it
orders.
was- The damages were being argued about in the parking lot.
I think if you look on that spreadsheet, if you look at the 5th row, you'll see another item for Wolf School.
Yep, there you go.
And that, I think, is probably the one you're talking about.
I think just the most important part of this discussion is that this credit is not from that phase.
As Dave said, number 5, the 5th line is the 13,000 that we asked for money for.
Okay. Next is the building zoning permits, which is just the list for our information, correct?
Yes.
And we got everything we needed last night on our enrollment forecast.
Ms. Seinfeld, if I can ask the facilities committee to go back, I believe the surplus equipment, we need a recommendation for approval to take that to the full board because that needs to go to the agenda on Tuesday so that the board can vote to
Okay.
Oh, I thought
authorize
that was
us.
just an FYI.
That was something that we needed clarification from you all on. You wanted it on here for approval at one point, and so that's
I think
was
that's
the
a good idea.
clarification and regarding the policy. There was some confusion at the last
Right.
facilities committee meeting that staff and prior director of facilities had just put things on gov.deals, but your policy clearly gave them that authority up to $30,000 worth of value. And so we also wanted to make sure that was clear, that there was an understanding and how you want us to move forward.
So you want to vote on it?
My understanding was just from a transparency standpoint, we want to bring these items to the facilities committee every month, as long as we have them, to then go to the full board to vote on declaring these as surplus.
I think
That's-
it's great for an FYI. I don't think we need to vote on it though, do we? Or is that what you would like us to do?
Your policy does not require that you vote on it, but that was what the direction that staff understood you wanted to go into. And so that's what we're trying to clarify.
I thought it was
Yeah,
information
I
as
thought it was
well.
informational from last meeting.
So we're good with just information every month,
Unless it's
unless it's
valued over
above the value in the
$30,000.
policy. Perfect.
So I think Dave
why I
and Mark, we just
skipped
need to
it,
be
sorry.
clear on the surplus sheets. It is above 30,000, we need to ask for action.
One more comment that I would add, because I have bought a lot of stuff off of Gov Deals. On the 5 boxes of band uniforms, I think it would get the school system more money if you could be descriptive. There's 5 boxes, 5 suits, or 20 suits, and the size too. This will probably bring nothing. I'm probably chasing a scent and not an animal, but like up in school nutrition, you tell exactly what you've got. And the World Globes, all these will be bid separately, right?
There are certain things that you can group together of like items, but for the most part, you wouldn't group those.
I would love to have the World Globes bid on them because that's just something that's gone from my era of being in school, Sort of proves the world's round too.
Anything else on open session agenda? Okay, I need a motion to go into closed session pursuant to NCGS
Hang on
143.
one second. We still have building permit updates.
No, we already did that. Those are just for FYI.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Does anyone have any questions on it?
I did. I noticed that there, and I don't know that we can monitor or manage this, but There was a community on there that said it would affect an elementary school and middle schools and high schools, but it was a community that is 55 and older and has requirements that they can't have children or that children will not live in that community. So I was just curious, is it necessary for that type of community to be identified that they will go to this elementary, this middle, and that high school if we've already been informed that it's 55 and older and the HOA says that children are not permissible in those households?
I would expect, and Don can correct me, I would expect our comments, to the various towns that, may have that we wouldn't expect an impact, to it.
But I was a little shocked that we had assigned, schools to that.
There is a possibility of impacts, even if it's needed to an age restriction. They can change, some developer can change their mind at some point and turn it into a non-age restricted.
Yes.
And even an age restricted subdivision can still bring in grandkids to live with grandparents and that sort of thing.
This particular community I know has, like you said, it could change, but the way it is today, I know this particular community is, I'm not sure how far it's built out, but it's pretty built out at this point. It's courtyards at Emerald Lake. So unless the homeowners association changes, there aren't school-age children there. So I was just worried, I was just concerned if those schools needed to be identified on here, or if we needed to have an asterisk or a footnote indicating that this community does not have school-age children.
We can certainly put that in the monthly report if we're aware that it's an age-restricted development. But we do have age-restricted developments elsewhere in the county that do have kids in the school system. As just a general rule, we include them with the report.
Ms. Merrill, this is an issue we need to take up with our state legislators. North Carolina does not currently have a law that allows you to legally designate age restricted. South Carolina does. Case in point, the Delwood community down there on 521. So it could turn, it could be built, and then in 10 years, it could turn into a community. So we need to ask our legislators, would they consider dealing with this? Because it's like you're writing a check and you don't know, is the amount zero or a bunch of kids?
It's just the trend that I'm seeing in Union County is more and more developments are under construction for 55 and older. And so I didn't know if we wanted to fix those that they currently may not impact our schools, as opposed to assigning an elementary, middle, and high school to that community.
Well, what worries me about those communities is once the first generation buyer passes, most people going into a retirement home are going to want to go into a new facility. So eventually, just like we see new shopping stores, new stores replacing old stores and making malls vacant, these things will become vacant. Somebody will do something with them.
But we will call those out in future reports.
I think that would be great, and thank you for that consideration, because I think we're going to see more, and especially after what we heard last night, I think there's a high demand for empty nesters, and I think we're going to see more and more communities being built in Union County for empty nesters.
Having already heard your request for a motion, I make a motion that we go into closed session.
I didn't finish.
I'm sorry.
I need a motion to go into closed session pursuant to NCGS 143-318.11A3 to consult with a counsel.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?